Zach Keenan here with DevilsDigest.com. Alongside our publisher, Hoda Rubino, we can finally say it. It's game week. The Sun Devils will kick off their 2021 season campaign against the Southern Utah Thunderbirds here at Sun Devil Stadium at 7:30 p.m. on Thursday. Hoda, we're so excited. And of course, that comes with a pre-game preview. Usually many see the season opener as even a glorified scrimmage, probably the easiest opponent on ASU's schedule. Others view it as a game from which you can't draw many meaningful conclusions. Hode, how do you view this game?
Well, I do agree, Zach, that there's some validity for this game really being the classic no-win game. You're expected to win big, and if you do, it's a ho-hum result. It's not really going to move the needle maybe with a lot of people. If you do struggle, whether that does or does not show in the final score, then yes, it's absolutely can be realistic or unrealistic reason for concern for later in the year. But I think there's some interesting elements that do actually make this game more meaningful than it would be in years past. For obvious reasons, I think this Arizona State team does have the circle the wagons mentality, and they are really don't care what name is on the jersey on the other side of the line of scrimmage. They're out there to win and win big. And I think some of it also ties into the fact that ASU, despite a very pedestrian 2-2 record in 2020, was able just to sneak into the preseason top 25 AP poll. And I think with that ranking does come some responsibility to show that those preseason accolades, if you will, were justified, and you definitely have a great opportunity to prove that week one, whether it's a formidable opponent or not, to really go ahead and justify those accolades, those expectations, that respect that you're getting, at least from some of the national media out there. So I think that all in all, it's a game that might mean just a little more than we would expect, and I think also you just have that natural excitement of the team finally getting to play with fans at Sun Devil Stadium. And sure, that's a notion that a lot of other teams around college football can share. So, Zach, for all the reasons that I mentioned, I don't think this is just another cupcake game, a walk in the park game that really won't mean a whole lot just because the level of talent disparity is so great between both programs.
You mentioned ASU ranked 25th in that AP preseason poll. Now, with that ranking and those preseason accolades, the watch lists, come many expectations. And not only expectations from the fans, the college football world, but also expectations on the inside. Hode, what are some of these things that the players and coaches need to prove to themselves in order to show that, hey, this 25 ranking is the real deal?
Well, I don't mean to belabor the point about the passing game, but as I mentioned, probably ad nauseum, as some people may think at this point, this passing game really has to show a lot compared to what we saw in 2020. There definitely were a lot of objective reasons for the passing game really not performing at such a high level last season, but I think that when you look at 2021, there's really no more excuses. This team did have a full normal preseason. Everybody is hopefully a year older, a year wiser in this complex and creative Zach Hill offensive scheme. So this passing game really needs to show that it is making the strides everybody expected them to make. And look, when you look at the Southern Utah team giving up over 400 yards passing to a San Jose State team, I mean, pretty good in the G5 level, if we're being honest. But nonetheless, I like to think that that definitely did whet the appetite, if you will, for Jaden Daniels and for his wide receivers to try to put on just as much of a show, if you will, on Thursday against the same opponent, especially on a short week of rest. When you look at the defense, overstating the obvious probably, but how does the defensive line look with the season-ending injury to Jermaine Lole at defensive tackle? Yes, this is not going to be a formidable test, not even next week against UNLV, but starting with the BYU game and then the Pac-12 slate to follow. How does this defensive line really cope with that loss? Are the backups that are now going to be starters, are they ready to assume that role? We're talking about the player that we expected to probably shine the most in Jermaine Lole's absence, freshman defensive tackle Omar Norman Lott, somebody who was injured for long periods of time in spring practice, long periods of time in fall camp. Can he come and assume this position and really make an impact? I don't know if you can really realistically expect that much from him come Thursday, but he definitely has to have some kind of starting point. So this season opener, I think, is really important to him. And as we know, the defensive line absolutely dictates, in a domino effect, if you will, the play of the rest of the defense. If the defensive line can be quite the disruptor up front, that frees up the linebackers behind them, a very talented trio of linebackers to make plays, and definitely is going to make life a whole lot easier for a very talented group of defensive backs for the Sun Devils. So really curious to see how this defensive line does cope with this loss, even though the caliber of opponents is going to be nowhere close to what they're going to see in just 2-3 weeks from now. And just in general, Zach, I know that it's crazy maybe to already think about 2022, but if you're going to give the young players, the seldom used players, opportunities, this is definitely a game that you have to circle. This is a game that ideally you like to play them much more than the fourth quarter. Maybe at halftime you just have just rolling out second and third teamers out there, because the future really, in a lot of respects, does really start now. And not to like put some gloom and doom before we even started the 2021 season, but at the end of this season, we know for various reasons there's going to be a big talent drain from this Sun Devil squad. A lot of seniors, a lot of players still have eligibility, but now have eyes on the NFL draft. So can these young players really step up? Because when spring practice 2022 rolls by, you don't want to have practice footage on some players that might end up being key players in the 2 deep for the 2022 season. You want to see some actual game film against them. And it really doesn't matter that the opponent, again, is going to be the weakest one on ASU's schedule, but you want to see what can they do in game day conditions. And again, that really starts on Thursday for that group. So really, even though you look at a game that by all means should be the easiest game on the Sun Devil schedule, there's still some components on this team that really have a lot to prove and really should give their coaches some restful nights instead of sleepless nights, if you will, to really show what they can do on Thursday against Southern Utah.
So many times these, especially these beginning of the season games that seem like such easy wins, rollover wins even, they don't always manifest themselves on the field, at least not without a little bit of elbow grease. Hode, with that being said, what's your take on this game, your prediction, if you will, and how you think this one's going to turn out?
Yeah, I think there's no reason not to expect the big ASU win that everybody is fully expecting from this team. I think the line in Las Vegas is just around 45 points, and I think that's a justifiable line. Again, you talk about Southern Utah coming here only after 5 days rest, if you will. I mean, that's good for pitchers and MLB, but that's not really good for a football team, especially a football team that really got embarrassed, expectedly or not, against a team like San Jose State. I mean, you look at the game film, and sure, the ASU coaches understandably are going to be respectful and say that they're taking this opponent seriously, but anybody watching that game that they had against San Jose State knows that they didn't show much on offense or on defense to even give you a slight concern. They practically scored only 7 points on offense. Their defense really couldn't stop anything that San Jose State was running at them. After what we saw or didn't see Southern Utah display against San Jose State team, I don't think that this is a game that really lends itself to think that Southern Utah is even a middle-of-the-road FCS team, a team that maybe can give ASU some problems here or there. So all in all, I expect this to be the dominating win that everybody expects it to be. But at the same time, I still have somewhat of reservations of ASU's passing game. Now, look, I know that the game against Arizona in Tucson last year, 77 win, proves that you don't have to have your passing game explode for 400 yards passing to hang 70 points on your opponent. But at the same time, I'm not expecting the 65-35 run-pass distribution that ASU had on offense last year to be somewhere anywhere close in the 2021 season. And that has to start with this Thursday game to really have as balanced an offense as possible. So that means that the passing game really is not going to take a back seat to a running game, which I expect it to be also dominant on Thursday for obvious reasons. But at the same time, can this passing game really, with given now more opportunities, can it really just light up the scoreboard like some are expecting? So it's definitely going to be an easy game. I think from the get-go, I don't think ASU should encounter any problems, even though, as I said a second ago, passing game has to prove some stuff. Defensive line without Jermaine Lollet has to prove some stuff. But all in all, I'm expecting a big win for Arizona State, 57-10 for their season opener on Thursday night.
Prediction, 57-10 at this place Thursday night. Hode, thanks so much for your time today. For all your in and post-game coverage. Make sure you keep it locked into our website, DevilsDigest.com, not only for this week, but the entirety of the 2021 Sun Devils season. And while you're at it, give us a follow on Twitter, @DevilsDigest. We'll see you right back here for Game Day on Thursday. For Hode Rubino, I'm Zach Keenan.